In this video, I will show you the 4 things you absolutely cannot do while applying for business credit. I'll go into detail for each item and tell you what you need to do instead. When I apply to get funding and when we help our clients get funded, we make sure these 4 things are done correctly. My name is Paulo Azevedo. I'm a high school dropout who failed many times in life until I found success in running my own business. I own multiple businesses like a 7-figure Amazon business, a credit repair business, and a funding business. I found myself needing credit to scale all of my business. I struggled to get funding at first, but once I cracked the code on getting more cash for my business, my revenue skyrocketed. So let's break it down. Mistake number 1: business name and NAICS classification. You want to avoid using high risk business names that include leasing, real estate, crypto, credit, and investing. These names all are red flags for lenders. You want to use neutral names like enterprises, holdings, management, ventures, consulting. If you say you have a delivery business, you don't want to call it Joe Strunking. That could be your DBA name, your doing business as name, but it could be Joe's Logistics LLC. It could be Joe's Enterprises, Joe's Holdings 1, 2, or 3. That could be the name of it. Those are not red flags for the lenders. But having a trucking business is a high risk for the lenders. You also want to use the right code. So for trucking, typically that number is 4841. But the NAICS code that you can use for logistics is 541614. So is it accurate? Is it within the umbrella? Yes, but it's just not specific enough to throw any red flags. So you can always use the DBA and you can change the DBA. It's not something that you can record with the state. You can also change the LLC with your state. Sometimes there's a filing fee of like $100, but it's something very easy to do and you can do it yourself. And then the third option will be you can actually buy a shelf corp and we can assist with that as well. That's age 3-4 years, that has a specific name, that has everything set up, nothing attached to it. And then you can use that for funding as well, typically with higher limits than a business that's brand new. Mistake number 2 that people do, and something you want to avoid, is listing unbelievable income. Unbelievable income is basically income that's either really, really high. You also don't want to put income that's really low. So the sweet spot for business funding with higher limits is typically around 100 to 200,000 a year personal income. Why don't you want to go above 200? The reason is at that point it's very unlikely because the amount of people that actually make that is very low. So you want to be able to prove that you make more than that. So if you actually make $300,000, $400,000 a year and have the documentation to prove that, that's totally fine. If you don't, you want to put in your stated incomes between 100 and 200,000. You don't want to use income that's very low. So typically anything under 100,000 is considered low income. And that's typically also a reason to deny your application is because that's just too low income for business funding with high limits. Mistake number 3, saying you are self-employed. Now, that could be absolutely true that you are self-employed, but self-employed for lenders means red flags. 90% of restaurants close within 5 years. So that's a self-employed business, typically owned by the chef or restaurant owner. So there's a very high chance that your business may not actually be around in 5 years. It's very, very true across the board. But if you do say that you work for another company, say Joe's Logistics LLC, that's completely fine. And you could say that you're the CEO, a manager, a director. Typically, I tell people to go in with manager. No red flags there, just putting it that way. And the fourth mistake to avoid when filling out these applications is you put in the wrong usage for your funds. You don't want to tell the banks you want to use funds to pay off your debt, to use it for emergency funds, or any type of investing like crypto or buying a property. That's all considered high risk for these lenders. So what you do instead is you tell them that you want to use the funds so you can have working capital or advertising or buy more product, more inventory, or to keep scaling your business in another way, perhaps buy more equipment for your business. So you want to be able to pick the right thing there. Now, what you use the money is completely up to you. You has your risk, you know where you're going to put the money and you know where the highest return is, but you're still going to be personal guaranteeing this debt. So you always want to know that whatever you invest in is going to give you a solid return for what you're getting from another lender. So these four things will automatically increase your chances of getting more funding that you need. And you can use this for personal side minus the first mistake, and you can use it for the business side as well. If you're struggling to get funding because of poor credit due to negatives like late payments, collections, repos, and eventually you want to get business funding or more personal funding with higher limits, you can click on the link below to set up a time with one of our credit advisors for free.